Hello, my sweets. It's Keisha. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you for choosing to watch my video. Grab your favorite holiday beverage and snack because it's officially that time of year. Christmas crafting season is here. To kick things off, I've put together a festive compilation of some of my DIY Christmas projects from the past. This collection has a little bit of everything, from ornaments to home decor, so there's something for everyone. You can find the timestamps for each project in the description box if you want to jump to your favorite. So let's dive in and make this holiday extra special with some handmade magic. I'll be showing you how I made this super sweet container out of 2 gingerbread house cutouts and foam core from Dollar Tree, along with other low-cost supplies. Alright, let's get started. A list of the supplies I used is in the description box below. Okay, so to prepare this house, what I started by doing was I put a little bit of the Dollar Tree spackle in the hole, and then I painted the back. So the next thing I want to do is make this door 3D, like how the windows are. So I have these stir sticks that I purchased at coffee stirrers, excuse me, that I purchased at a local grocery store. The regular popsicle sticks are a little bit too big, but if that's all you have, then you may be able to go ahead and cut them down. So what I'm going to do is cut pieces of this, and I have, excuse me, a little piece of sandpaper here, and I'm just going to kind of measure this around and cut it down to what I need. So I have a little bit of this wood glue on a piece of paper, and I'm just going to get a semi-small paintbrush here so that I can apply the glue since these pieces are kind of smaller. I'm going to go ahead and let this glue set up, and we'll go on to the next step. So what I have here is a mixture of paint that I mixed up to make like a gingerbread color. The colors that I have, I wasn't too satisfied on using those. So what I mixed is yellow, red, and black, and came up with this brown color that I'll be using. And what I found is you want to use the yellow and the red to make like a yellowy orange color, and then just drops of black to darken it to the shade that you would like. Okay, so next what I did was I came in and put some of that in this little bowl here and watered it down so it's more like a stain than a paint. So now what I'm going to do is, and you'll see why in a little bit, because if you just go and paint over this, you may lose the little details here, and I want to keep those. If you don't want to keep the details, then by all means you can just go ahead and paint right over it. But I wanted to be able to see those details once I'm done painting. So I'm going to have a paintbrush here and a baby wipe, and I'm going to start applying the paint. And I'm just going to go all over just to save myself the headache of trying to do the details. And it looks like I might not even need the wipe because this wood is just soaking this up. So I'm just going to go all over the house here, concentrating on the areas that I know for sure I want to be the gingerbread color. Like here on this tree, I'm gonna go in the spaces, but I'm not concerned about whether the tree gets brown or not. I'm just concentrating on getting this whole thing brown. But you can see here that I can still see the lines and the details because this paint is watered down. Okay, so next what I have here is some white paint, just regular acrylic paint. And what I want to do is just come over some of these spots where the brown kind of ran over, just to camouflage this. I'm more concerned about the windows because I do want the color that I'm going to add on there to pop. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I get these colored back out, or remove the brown basically from the face part of it. You'll also notice that some of the places, like in these windows here, it is a little bit splotchy, and that's areas where glue is. So there's not anything that I can really do about that. It's just over glue from when Dollar Tree was manufacturing this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish out the window frames and the door frame, and I'll get to the regular coloring. Okay, next what I have here is Waverly chalk paint in Ballerina Slipper, and I'm going to use this to paint around the window frames. So I'm just going to paint in all of the window frames here. And if you're wondering why I came back in and painted these white, it helps the color to pop. If you have like a darker background, the color is going to look darker. If you have a lighter background, then you'll have a brighter, lighter color. So I'm just going to come down to right where the snow is supposed to be on the windowsill, on all of them. Next, I'm going to come in with this Anita's acrylic paint, and the color of it is True Red, and I'm going to do the door frame. And next, what I'm going to do to add a little bit of razzle dazzle is come in with this Anita's all-purpose pearl metallic paint, and this one is in pearl pink, and I'm going to put it over all of the, I don't know what I'm trying to say, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and put it over all of the frames here. So the next thing I'm going to do is come in and fill in these lights. And I have the puffy 3D paint here in some different colors, obviously. Now, you can get some at Dollar Tree. I was able to find red, white, and yellow in my stores. You may be able to find more. I think I've seen people haul different colors, purple, blue, green. Unfortunately, I haven't seen those in my stores. So I went ahead and picked up some other colors. And the key to working with this stuff is to make sure that you kind of tap the color all the way down to the tip, so it doesn't do a splat with air bubbles on your project. So I'm going to start with this pink color, and I'm going to go around with the lights that I want to be pink, and then I'm going to go from there with my rainbow of colors here. Next, I'm going to come in with this white here. Go around the door and do some slanted stripes, door frame. You can see here that I have a little air bubble. So I'm just going to take this skewer and just kind of clean off the color here the best that I can. Okay. cleaned up. It's not perfect, but I think it'll be okay. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry down for a little bit before I move on, because I don't want to smudge any of the other colors. So while that's drying, I'm gonna work on another step here. Next, what I have here are 2 pieces of poster board that are gonna act like the side walls, and they are 5 3/4 long by 4 3/4 wide. So what I'm going to do, or what I did do, was I painted one side white, and I painted the other side with this gingerbread color that I mixed up. This side I did about 2 thin coats, and then this side I just did 1 thin coat to try to straighten it back out, because once I painted this side it kind of bowed a little bit. So I did this side to try to straighten it back out, and it did straighten out significantly. There's still a little bow to it, but I don't think that'll be of any consequence. So next, what I'm going to do is draw some lines on this. I guess I want to say it's called like a quilting pattern. Basically, I'm going to be doing some diamonds on here. So I'm going to do a line from corner to corner, and then I'm going to go 1 inch on each side of that line. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing in the opposite direction. I'm going to go from corner to corner. So the next thing I'm going to do is come in with the white. Now, I found that with these name brand ones, the tips on them are a little bit finer than the one from Dollar Tree, so I'm going to go ahead and use the store-bought white. But all I'm going to be doing here next is going over the lines with the white puff paint. So next, what I'm going to do is come in with the red, and anywhere that the lines cross each other, I'm just going to do a dot there. So that's what we have so far. And I do have another one here that's dry, so you can see that's what it looks like once it's dry. So it's dried down some. It's not completely dry, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. Just try to be really careful. And I have my lineup of colors here. Basically, all I'm going to do is come around and do polka dots on the window frames. So that's what we have there. Next, I'm going to come in with this neon green and then with this apple green. And I'm going to work on this wreath here. And all I'm going to do is just fill in the wreath area. And I'm going to come in with the apple green and just make a few dots. And I'm going to come in with this skewer that I have here with the pointy edge, and I'm just going to mix the apple green around. Just like that. And now I'm going to come in with this true pink, which is a lighter color pink than the one I was using before. And I'm going to fill in this little bow. Okay. I'll bring that up closer so you can have a look-see at the green and the bow. Okay, So the puff paint has had a chance to dry. And the next thing I'm going to do is come in with this white puff paint. And I don't know if the camera's going to... Okay. I drew some squiggly lines there that I'm going to connect the lights with this white puff paint. So that's what I'm going to do next here. And I'm just going to come in and follow the lines. Okay, and there we have it. So the next thing I'm going to add are these dots here. And I wanted these to kind of replicate the candy buttons that you see. So these are actually these pearl stickers from Crafter's Square. And I just took various colors of paint, and I did 2 coats on each strip, and I made sure to go short ways, sorry, where you can kind of see the glue so that they all connected. And then after I painted 2 coats on each one, I went and put a coat of glossy Mod Podge on them, so they had more of a candy appearance to them. So now you just peel the strip off. This is what I mean when I went along the glue. And I'm going to add them down the sides of the house. Just like that. Now I'm not going to use any hot glue, and I hope that I don't live to regret that. But that should be something easy enough to fix. We have it. So the next thing that I want to do is begin to frost this area, and what I'm going to use is this caulking by Tool Bench from Dollar Tree. And I have this clip on here because there's a hole somewhere in here in the top, and I'm not sure exactly where it is, but life goes on. All I'm going to do is start squeezing this onto this area, these areas where it's supposed to be like snow. And I'm really not concerned with how it's looking just yet. I'm just mainly trying to get it applied. Next I'm going to come in with a skewer, and I'm going to use the back end of it this time. And all I'm going to do is spread it and swirl it while I'm getting it spread out all over this area. Okay, so that's what we have so far. And I'm going to be doing the same thing on the windows as well. Okay, so next I have these mini trees that I got from Walmart, and they're $1.98 for 4 of them. I'm going to be using 2 for this house here. Instead of doing the trees that were drawn on there, I'm going to place these there instead. So what I'm going to do is take the tree and come sort of like this and just spread it open so that I can apply it to the board. I'm going to go off the edge of the table here just to kind of flatten it out a little bit. Sorry you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm laying it flat down on the table off the edge and just kind of helping it flatten out a little bit better. And you just want to go up a little ways. and just spread that open. And then you want to make sure that you haven't totally wrecked the other side. So there's that one. Clip that off here. Okay. And I didn't mention, I'm sorry, there's like a loop. I didn't mention on the last one, there's a loop on here. What I did was I came to the back where it hooks over, and I'm just spreading it so that when I turn it over, it just looks like it's straight up, not like there's like an ornament. It's supposed to be an ornament. So I do that to this one here. So the caulking has had a chance to dry a little bit. It's not completely dry, but it's dry enough in this area that I can go ahead and add my trees. And before I go any further, I did cut off some of the base, probably about half of it actually, so that it could match kind of where the other tree or the drawn tree was. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and apply these with hot glue. And in that area that we flattened out, I'm just going to add a generous amount of hot glue. And then I'm going to place it over the tree that's carved in there. And I want it just even with the base of the house. Okay, so the caulking has dried a little bit more, so I can go ahead and handle it for the next steps. And just wanted to show you that I do have 2 of these made for this project. You'll notice that there is a slight difference in between the 2. I thought I was buying the same house, but I had bought them at 2 separate occasions. So I got one that had the 2, the door and the window. So I added these with the coffee stirrers, and then you saw this one. Okay, so now we're gonna build our container. And I also have these straws that I got, these straws that I had gotten at Walmart for $1.98. And I wanna say, if I'm remembering correctly, these were in their like holiday baking aisle that they have. I'm gonna be using these. And then we also have our side walls that we did, sorry. Okay. Oh, also I have 4 tumbling tower blocks here to help hold up the walls a little bit, if that makes any sense. I have 4 of them painted white. I'm not sure if I'm gonna need more, but I'll let you know if I do end up adding any more. So what I'm gonna do is attempt to get this thing put together, and I think I'm going to use this glue bottle to help me hold it up. And what I want to do is glue the sidewall on, but I want to leave a little bit of space because I want to use these straws on the side. I don't know if you can see that. I want to end up using the straws like this. So I think maybe the easiest thing, now that I'm looking at it, is to hold it up to the edge where I pretty much want it, and then use a pencil and make a mark. So I know that's where I need to glue. Bottle back out. And I'm going to be using hot glue. Okay, so now I'm going to attach the block in the corners. Now I'm going to attach this side. going to add another block coming in right here. Okay, and this is what we have on the side so far. Okay, and now to add this one in. I'm thinking the best way to do this, since I do have a little bit of space, I'm going to still do one side at a time. Got the glue. Get that as straight as possible. And then add the next block, which will be this way. Okay. And then now I'm going to come down this final side. And then attach the final block. That's going to go in this way. All right. So I've gotten it attached together. You can see here, here's what the bottom inside looks like. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and put the house on the base, and this is the base that we have so far, and it measures 8 3/4 by 7 inches, and I've marked off, the center points on the base and also down here on the house, so that I can kind of center it on the board. I don't expect that it's going to be perfect, but I'm going to try to get it as close as possible. Now, what I'm going to do so that I have a little bit of wiggle room before it permanently sets is I'm going to use wood glue rather than using hot glue right off the bat. So again, I'm going to center it as much as possible. Okay, I think I got it as centered as I'm going to get it. Again, it is a little cattywampus, but that's okay. I also made the base a little bit smaller because I don't want it to take up too much of a footprint. We're running short on space with a lot of things, so that's why the base is smaller, but feel free to make the base as big or as small as you would like. And I'm just going to let this glue set up a little bit, tack it with some hot glue in places for a little extra security, and then go on to the next step. Okay, so next what I did was I took 4 of the green straws, and I wanted to add a little something extra to them. So what I did was I took Mod Podge and iridescent glitter, and I sugared them so they were a little bit more fancy than just the plain straws. So I'm going to cut these down to 5 inches a piece so that I can put them in the corners here. Okay, so I'm going to mark them. And I'm going to use my knife because this straw is really thick. And And you just, if you happen to get these straws from Walmart, you just want to be really careful when cutting it. And then we'll save this for another craft. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of them. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and place some hot glue in the corners. And I'm going to glue these into the corners like this. Okay, so that's what we have. And I'm going to go ahead and do it to the other side. Next what I'm going to do is come back in with the caulking. And I want to come across here and on the roof line on both sides. So I'm going to do it the same way how I did the roof line here and the windows. So I'm going to squirt some on there and then swirl it around. Okay, so far what I've done is after I did the top portions, I went ahead and went down here on the side with the caulking and around the edges and around the top. I wanted to kind of hold off on doing the actual base portion of it because, excuse me, I knew I wanted to add some trees to it and a couple of candies. So these are the little bottle brush trees that come in an 8-pack from Dollar Tree. And what I did was I bleached them out and then dyed them in watered down acrylic paint and then covered them with glitter. So I did 4 purple and 4 green. And then I actually poached these off of the red truck ornaments. And these don't bleach, so all I did was I just glittered them. And then I have these candy canes. And these are actually ornaments from Walmart, $1.98, and you get 6 in the pack. So what I did was I just cut the little hook part off of them to use them on here. So the first thing that I want to do, I know this is kind of an awkward angle for you to see, is I'm going to take one of these trees here, and everything that I do to this side, I'm going to do to the opposite side. So I'm going to take one of these trees and glue it, push this, glue it here in the corner. And I did poke a hole slightly down into the foam so that I can get it to stand up more easily in the hot glue. Excuse me. Also, these come with a gold base, and I went ahead and just painted those white. So I think I gotta let this hot glue cool down some, but I have the caulking here, and I want to be able to make sure that it gets in all of the gaps. So I'm going to be caulking and gluing and just making sure that the caulking covers every part, or as much as every part as I can get it. And so now what I'm going to do is decide where I want these 2 trees. And I think I'm going to have one here and one here, but I think what I want to do is build this one up a little bit higher with hot glue. So I'm going to put some hot glue there and let it dry, and then glue this tree to the hot glue, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and put some hot glue there and let that kind of come down. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to come to the other side, and I have another one of these trees. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So what I do is I kind of just poke it down a little bit into the foam core, and then place some glue over the hole and stick it in the hole. Okay, so then I'm going to come around and fill this area in here around the tree. Then I'm thinking to put these candy canes on this side as well. So I'm going to build up the caulking back here. All right, so that hot glue has cooled down enough to where I can go ahead and place the tree on it. So I'm going to put some glue here on the bottom of it. Sorry, I'm just putting some glue on the bottom of the purple tree. And then I'm going to place it on top of that little mound that I made. And let that set up momentarily. And now I'm going to see if I can get this candy cane to stand up in this caulking. Can you see that? It's just right there. Excuse me, sorry. And then I sort of want to build it up a little bit more so I can put the pink one next to it. Let that get a little bit more tacky before I stick the pink one in. So while that's getting tacky, I'm going to come over here and fill in this area. And then I'm actually going to take this smaller green tree and I'm going to press it right down in there. Okay. These are acting crazy. So I'm just going to tack this one there. Fix that icing, caulking, and now I'm going to pick it up so that you can see better. So that's what I've been working on there. And I'll be doing the same exact thing to the other side. Okay, so next what I've decided to do is to go ahead and add the faux snow. I already took it out of the container, but it looks like this from Dollar Tree. And I started on the base already, and so I decided to just go ahead and do it over the whole thing. So all I've been basically doing is just taking Mod Podge and kind of tapping it on there kind of thick, and then sprinkling the faux snow on top of it. And the reason why I decided to go this route is because I was noticing that the caulking isn't as white as I would like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So this stuff is completely optional, but I think it looks a lot prettier with this faux snow on there. So I'm going to continue to go ahead and do this over all of the places that have caulking on it, and just dazzle it up. That's what we have. I don't know if you can see the sparkle, and you can actually see the difference in the color. Maybe this light. I don't know if that makes it any better, but you can see the difference in person. So I'm going to continue to do this over the whole thing. This gingerbread house container turned out so cute. I'm currently using it to hold candy canes, but with its versatility, you'll never know what I'll use it for next. Today I'll be showing you how I made these mini faux cupcake ornaments. If you'd like to see how, just keep watching. A list of supplies I used is in the description box below. For this ornament, what you're going to need is a piece of foam core, some mini baking cups, and I made a little stencil of or template, excuse me, of the bottom of the cupcake cup, and a pencil. So what I'm going to do is cut 3 of these little circles to go in the bottom of these cups here, and this just helps for the cup to stay flat for the next step that we're going to do. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut these out. So now I'm going to glue these down into the cups, and I'm just going to put a little hot glue here and stick them down in there. Now I'm planning to use these for ornaments, but if you are doing these just for standalone, you may want to put like a little rock or a little pebble down in the bottom, just because these do tend to get a little top heavy and can tip over. Okay, so now we've got those set up, we're going to go to our next step. Okay, so I've gotten my cupcake cups into a silicone baking sheet. If you're going to do this project, you want to make sure that you have one that's designated for this. You don't want to use this with food again, because yeah, you just don't want this stuff next to stuff you'll be eating. Now what I have is the gaps and cracks, and I picked this up at Home Depot, and I believe it was no more than $6 for this. And I've already done a whole tray of them, and I still have this left over. So I'm going to show you how it works here. You want to be sure that you're wearing gloves and protective eyewear. I wear glasses, so I guess that'll be my protective eyewear, but this stuff is really sticky, so you don't want to get it on your hands. So this container here is reusable. A lot of them aren't. You just want to make sure that you shake it really good and then squirt a little bit into the cup. Okay. And the stuff will expand. Now what I did previously, oh, that's a bit too much, so that's going to be out of control. The trigger on this is really sensitive. I guess obviously because this isn't really meant for crafting, but we're doing it. So just a little bit in each cup, and then as I was saying before, all I did was spray these in the evening, and then I let them sit overnight, and then you're able to use them again. Now this container is reusable. It does have a start and a stop cap on it, and it's good for, if I remember correctly, you can use it up to 4 weeks. It does have a disclaimer on there that it may not work, but I've had this open now for about a week and a half, and I was able to get these ones done here. So this is going to sit overnight, and I'm going to bring in the ones, actually they're going to sit right here because I need to work out of this tray. I'm going to go ahead and bring them in. So here you can see the cupcakes that are now dried, and what I have done so far is I painted the gaps and cracks this pink color to resemble strawberry, and I also have some that I painted with an antique white, so they look like vanilla. So I'm going to set these in here while I do my next step. Now they're not going to come out like super perfect. So on some of these I did have to shave it down. So you can kind of see that it's not perfectly round, but it'll do for the purpose of what we're doing here. Okay, so I'm just going to set these on here. And then I'm going to move this off to the side momentarily, and I'll be right back. Next, what I have here is some lightweight spackling, a tube of caulking, some apple barrel paint in the color Parakeet, and some craft sticks. And what I'm going to do is mix up the icing frosting for the cupcakes. And if you plan to do this as like on a large scale, I think it would be more cost effective if you went to like the hardware store or Walmart and purchased a big tub of it. But I'm staying on a rather smaller scale, and these containers I found are pretty good for that. Also, I like these containers because you can put the lid back on them and store them for a while. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm mixing it up a little bit, and then I'm going to take some of this caulking and squeeze just a little bit off in there. And I found, for me, like if you search this up on how to do the frosting online, you'll find all kinds of different ways to mix it. But I found that this way makes it a little bit smoother for me. But you can experiment around and see what you like. Now, you don't want this to be too runny, or otherwise your frosting will goop. But then you also don't want it to be too thick, because you'll have a hard time squeezing it out of the bag. So those are a couple of things to be mindful of when mixing up your frosting. I don't want it to be like the consistency of frosting. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir this, and I don't have any measured amounts. I just put it in there, and if it feels right, it feels right. I don't know how else to put it. Now, if you do get it too runny, I've heard of using flour to thicken it back up, or cornstarch as an option. And you just want to do that a little bit at a time, because you don't want it to be like a cement consistency and then have to keep adding paint and all these things. Also, if you find it to be too thick, you can add water to bring it back down. I've even used a little bit of just Mod Podge in there. But again, it's just all personal preference as to how you want to do it. So you just want to add color to the intensity that you want. Just remember that any color you use is going to lighten up because you're mixing it with white. So I think it's to the consistency that I like, so I'm going to go ahead and get this backed up. Okay, so I have my piping back here, and I have this tip, which is, I want to say it's a 1M, yes, it's a 1M tip through Wilton. And what I'm going to do is cut the tip of this bag off first. And you don't want to cut too much. If this is your first time using a piping bag, you don't want to cut too much. It's better to cut it little by little, so that the tip doesn't end up going all the way through. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off here. I know it seems like I have a mess on my table here. I apologize for making a mess here. Alright, so you want to make sure your tip is secure in your bag, and then you're going to take your bag and put it down in a cup. Again, you don't want to use any items in this project that could be reused. for food, because this stuff is really not meant to be eaten. So you put the bag over your cup, and then we're going to take the frosting here and just start putting it down in the bag. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side for just a moment while I talk about what I have here. So I have the cupcakes back. The reason why this one isn't inside of the cup is because this is a smaller one, so I intend to go all the way down to the actual liner and cover that one up. So I just have it taped to this little wooden board that I have. Okay, I also have some iridescent glitter. You can use any color glitter that you prefer. And I also have these cherries. They're actually berries that I got last year from Walmart for 97 cents. And I cut them off at an angle. And these ones I painted with Mod Podge and then dipped them in glitter. I do that with the ones that have a shorter stem, and also any of them, like this one here that's damaged. I will glitter these just to kind of hide the imperfections. But you don't necessarily have to do that. I do have some here that, well, I've used most of them, but that are plain, that I use also. So now what I'm going to do is get the bag out and stay in the shot here. All I'm doing is trying to shake the frosting down a little bit, and then I'm going to just take the bag and kind of squeeze it so the frosting starts to come out. Okay, so it's just about there. So what I'm going to do is open my glitter a little bit so I'm not fumbling around later. And I am not the best at frosting, and you don't have to be either. Just try it, go with it. So I'm going to come kind of like I'm going down around and just swirling it. Just like that. I hope you can see that. So I'm going to frost all of these here. Just want to make sure your bag is twisted so it doesn't come back out the other end. And I'm going to come in the middle and kind of swirl it around. Now with these, because they're a little bit higher, I like the actual cake to show, which is why I painted these so they look like actual cupcakes. And then I'm just swirling around the frosting, just like that. I'm going to squeeze the excess back down in here. And just cut my tip off into a thing of water here so that that stuff doesn't dry up in my tip. And done with this for now. I like these because I feel like they have an airtight seal to them. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and sprinkle this with some glitter. Okay, and then like with these that have the shorter stem, you can stick the stem down in there and just have a cute little cherry like that, the shorter stem. And then these that have the actual stem to it, you can have them with the stem sticking up. And and it looks like I miscounted. So let's get this other one. And we'll just stick that one there with a little stem. Now, I'm going to bring back out these hooks that I did earlier, just the U shape, and to make them an ornament. Let's see. You just stick it down into the foam. You don't want to be too rough with it because your fingers may end up going right down into that frosting, but you just want to stick that down in there, and then that way you have a hook to hang your ornament on the tree. Went a little wild there. So now you just set these aside to dry. And these are the ones that we sprayed earlier. And actually they're already pretty solid. I don't want to mess with it too much, but you can see this is what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to set these to the side to dry. And here they are. I've added foam beads to some and faux sprinkles to others. I also sealed them with a layer of matte Mod Podge, but that's optional. To see how I use these cupcake ornaments, stay tuned for an upcoming video. Today I'll be showing you how I made this sweets themed tree. Alright, let's get to it. A list of supplies I used is in the description box below. Okay, so what I did to begin is I took 2 of the Dollar Tree white trees here, and I spray painted them a pink color, and I did 2 coats. And when I started to do the second coat, I actually sprinkled the tree with glitter. And you could see some has landed on the table already, but I sprinkled it down with iridescent glitter to give it a little extra shine. So next what I did after it was dry is I took all of the branches on one and moved them all to one side, and I did that for the second one. So we're going to put these 2 trees together to make it a little bit fuller. And what I'm going to do is slide this little piece off. It comes off quite easily, and this will help the trees get closer together. Okay, so to put them together, I'll be using zip ties today, and these are from Tulle Bench from Dollar Tree, and you get 60 pieces in a pack, and they are 7.9 inches. They do have a variety of different sizes that you can get. So now what I'm going to do is take the 2 trees and just attach them together at a couple different points on the tree. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove these, and I'll be back with the next step. Okay, so next what I have here is some glitter tulle that I picked up during the Valentine's Day at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be using this to help the tree look a little bit fuller than what it is. And what I have next to it is this tulle. I realize you're not going to be able to find this one right now, and if you don't have this on hand, this is an option. They have this in the wedding section pretty much year round. It is white, and the only thing that I would suggest is maybe adding this first and spray painting it while it's on the tree, or if you don't mind the two-tone look, I think this would make a great alternative for this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this open. And the only difference in between these two, to go back, is the Valentine's one has 6 yards, and this one only carries 5 yards. But they're the same width. Okay, so this is what this tool looks like once you finally get it open. And let's see, the bottom of this tree's branches are about the 6-inch width. I believe this is 6 inches. Let me get a ruler out. Yes, this is 6 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is cut this to 13. Let's do 14 because I can always trim it. And this is just to start with. So I'm going to take it, and where these openings are in the tree, I am going to tie it around and give it a little knot. And you can see it in here. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut it to 15 inches just so it has a little bit more length there. And then that way, once we get to fluffing the tree, they'll be about the same length. So as I go up, I'm going to measure the next level. And so I'm not going to cut, when I get up to this level, I'm not going to cut it to 15. I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter and do that area. So I'm probably going to do about 4 or 5 of these. We'll see how it looks. We'll start with 4 and see how it looks. And I'll come back and report. Okay, so I've gotten the glitter tool tied onto the levels. I ended up using 2 rolls of the mesh, and this is what I have left over from those 2 rolls. So what I'm going to do is take this final little bit that I have and see about tying it around the top. Not sure it might work out. But what I did was on each level, I ended up doing 4. Kind of, if you think about it in corners, I tied on 4 that way. So the measurements that I used, I just measured from the bottom up. So for this one, if you remember, this is about 6 inches. So I ended up doing 15. So you want to double how far it is from the center and then add 3 inches for the tie if you want to do it the way that I did it. So I'm just going to tie these on here. And then if you noticed, I don't know if you can notice, but on the branches, I did go ahead and fluff them out. And I kind of gave the ends of them a curl. That also helps with just a little curl up. It also helps with the tree to make it look fuller. And so I'm just gonna finish this, tying off this top piece, and then get ready to make some decorations for our tree. So I will return momentarily. Next, what I have are felt stickers that come in a 4 count from Crafter Square, and they are gingerbread. I'm going to be creating some ornaments, and this one is going to be super easy. I am going to put this one to the side because it's missing some pieces, so I'm going to do some reconstructive surgery on her. So right now we'll just be creating the 3. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So what I'm gonna do is I have this scrap piece of felt here. You could also use cardstock, even paper, because these are pretty sturdy, or fabric. But what I'm gonna be doing is sticking them to the actual felt. Now what I have also are these, what I'm gonna be using to make the hook for the ornament. And I actually use these ornament hangers. Of course, they're a jumbled mess. These ornament hangers, and I basically just straighten them out first and then curve them into a U shape using the brush, just any round thing that you have. So I rolled it around the brush, and then I took the ends and twisted it. So that creates this situation here with the loop on top. Okay, so what we're gonna do is line up the top of the head with the edge of the felt, and then just give it just cut the felt down. Okay. Then I'm gonna take the sticker off of the back. And then stick my hook on. And then I'm gonna, could you see that? I'm sorry. And I stick the hook down into the sticky. And then I'm gonna take the gingerbread and line it up with the top of the little piece that we cut. And then you just wanna press it down. Now, if you're more comfortable adding additional glue, you can most certainly do that. So next I'm going to cut around the felt. I think the hardest part about this ornament here is me not being able to find my smaller detail scissors. So this one's actually really simple to do. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up the edge of this one just a little bit here, so there's not as much hangover to the front. So that's what it looks like with your hook. And then just to give it a little bit more security, I am going to take and peel the felt back just a little bit and add just a little bit of hot glue there. Okay, so that's really simple. Another option for the hanger is I have some baker's twine here, and I cut about a 6-inch piece, and I already have my little piece of felt here, and it's going to be this pretty much the same process as the previous one. So I'm just going to lightly place this down on the felt and then flip it over, and then take the twine and come to the back here and stick it down. And this time I am going to come in and do it this way as far as gluing the twine down for the hanger. And then you'll just trim the edges, and that's what this one looks like. So we have two different ways, and I would, you can either use the regular ornament hook or hanger to go on here, or you can use a piece of twine or ribbon to go ahead and hang this one as well. Next, what I have here is some Model Magic clay. I'm going to show you with this package here because you probably pick those colors up better. But I have red, yellow, blue, and white. And I picked these up at Dollar General, and they were $1 per package. I have seen them at Dollar Tree a couple of times, but most of the time I do find them at Dollar General in these smaller packages. If you need the bigger packages, then you can get them at any, well, your local craft store, and sometimes Walmart carries them in white. With these, if you have these three colors here, and even the white, because the white's nice to lighten, you can pretty much mix any color that you want. So right now, what I'm going to do is mix up a purple, just so you can see. And you just pinch off a little bit of the red and blue, because that's how we make purple. And then from there, once you mix them together, if you want to lighten it, you can add some of the white. Now I did find that because of the, I guess, the tone of the colors that I want to use are a little bit lighter, I have found that I've been using a lot more white than I have any of the other colors. So you just want to mix it, and if you need more red, add more red. Just depends on the shade of the color purple you're trying to get to. So now this is the point where I'm going to start mixing in some white. And you need, you know, quite a bit of white to lighten this. And you just keep kneading it, rolling it, twisting it until you get the shade and all of the colors mixed in. So this is still a little dark for me for what I'm wanting to do, so I can even pull off some of this purple and save this for another project, and then go ahead and add the white. And I can always go back and forth in between. But I'm liking this shade. It's just a little bit lighter than this darker shade here. Okay, so I'm going to mix up some more colors and then I'll be back. Okay, so these are the colors that I've mixed up here. So the orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And then I have a little bit of this raspberry pink left over from another project that I did. So I'll be using that eventually. But what I'm going to do is show you how to make simple candy, red and white candy. And obviously you need red and white. And I typically try to do them about the same size balls. And then I'm just gonna roll it into a tube. And it doesn't have to be anything perfect. Okay, so there's the white one. And then I'm gonna come in and do the red one next. And this red one, what I'm gonna do, I'm kneading it right now to warm it up. I'm going to break it in half. So you have about 2 equal pieces. If they're not exact, it's okay. Okay, so now I'm going to roll this to try to be the same length as this white one. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this other red one as well. Okay, so now I'm going to stack them on either side of the red, just like that. And then I'm going to start trying to roll them together into a log. And as you roll it out, you'll see that it starts twisting a little bit. You can go ahead and help that along and continue to roll it. And you can roll it as thin as you would like. Twist it here. You can see the candy cane is starting to form. And if you want more white than red, you can either make the white pieces, the red pieces slightly smaller, or you can do the colors opposite of how I did them. So do the red one, the big one, and then separate the white one smaller, if that makes sense. So you're just going to keep rolling it out to your desired thickness and twisting it. Okay, so at this point you can cut this down and make candy canes if you'd like. Or what I'm going to do is actually roll it in on itself. And just spiral it around. Just like that. So we have that, and you can use a skewer and stick a skewer in there so it dries, and then you'll have yourself a lollipop. Or you can stick a hook in there, and you just want to try to stick that in carefully so it doesn't come through the front or the back. And you just let this dry 2 to 3 days, 1 to 3 days, excuse me, depending on the thickness of it, and you have yourself some lightweight candies. Okay. Okay, so next I'm going to do one with all the colors, and this one is that raspberry pink that I had in a separate package, but you could mix this color by mixing together red and white. So I just have little balls here of the colors, and I'm going to roll it out to the same length as that pink one. Alright, so next you're going to just take your colors and lay them down. And you just want to be careful, because once you place this on there, it kind of wants to stick to itself. But again, it doesn't have to be anything perfect. So then you just roll it out like we did the last one. Once you get it to your desired thickness, you can then cut it and make candy canes, or roll it like I'm going to do here. I'm actually going to stop at a certain point and find something to cut with here. I'm going to go ahead and use my blade, and you can just cut it, and you can smooth it down here. And if you want to do a mini lollipop, you can stick a toothpick in there, or a skewer would be the right thickness for that. But again, I'm making ornaments for my little mini tree, so I'm gonna stick this right inside of here, just being careful to make sure to stay in the center. And then I'm gonna set this aside to dry for a couple of days, and I'm gonna do the next one. So you don't have to go as psychedelic as all the colors. You can do just like how we did this one, the basic two colored candies. But I just wanted to show you that you can do the multicolored ones. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and set those aside to dry, and we'll move on to our next ornament. These are the next ornaments that I'll be using on my little tree. I had to make a separate video to prevent this one from being too long. If you'd like to learn how I made these mini faux cupcake ornaments, the video is linked in the description box below. Next I'll be making a little tree topper for the tree. And what I did here was took some burlap ribbon and this glitter ribbon from Dollar Tree and just made a bow. And next what I'm going to do is, I got this last year at Walmart. It had more pieces on it, but I used some pieces off of it. And I have some of these vase fillers. And what I'm going to do is simply take the ones off that have the, I don't know what this is, part of the berries off, and replace them with some of these berries in here. Now, I was looking for the ones from Easter time in my stash. Unfortunately, I could not find them because those have, if I'm remembering correctly, they had like the greens and the blues, yellows in them. Unfortunately, I can't find those, so I'm going to use what I had close at hand. So I'm simply just pulling them off. Oops. I don't want that one to come off, but that's okay. And then I'm going to take some of these different ones, and since they're styrofoam, just replace them by sticking them back on where I pulled the ones off. Just like that. Now, if you prefer, you can put a little glue to help them stay on. I'm not going to do that just in case I do come across the Easter ones in my travels before Christmas is over, then I can switch them out. Okay, so that's essentially all that I'm going to do with that. And then I'm going to pull these off and actually glue them onto the topper here. I have two more here. And this heart is also back from Valentine's Day, and it was the ones, the styrofoams that came in the package of pink and red on a stick like this. I just pulled the red one off and glued it to there. So now what I'm gonna do is decide where I want these to go in here and get them glued down. So I like this configuration, so I'm going to go ahead and glue them in. Topper is all set, and so I'm going to get ready to put the tree together. One last thing before I get started putting the whole thing together is I'm going to be using the container that I made last week. If you missed that video, I will make sure to link it in the description box. And what you can do if you decide to make one of these is you can put floral foam, wedge that down in there. Unfortunately, I don't have any on hand at the moment, so I have some packing foam that I'm using, but I didn't have enough to build it up for the tree. So I do have these wooden dowels stuck down in there so I can slide the tree down in there. Otherwise, if you have enough foam, you can actually just wedge the tree down into the foam and then cover it. Also, another way to do the tree is to put it in a bucket and do the same thing with the foam, or you can use rocks or something to let it stand up that way. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and use these bags around this little makeshift foam that I have here just to kind of wedge it in and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. But I did want to make sure you knew that that's what I was doing, and a couple of different options that you can use if you decide to recreate this tree. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this part. And that's pretty wedged in there. So then all you would need to do is decide what you want to cover all this mess with so that's not seen, and it's good to go at this point. So I'll be back. I just love how my little sweet tree turned out. Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Today I'll be showing you how I made these 2 Kirklands inspired decor pieces using inexpensive items and my Cricut Joy. If you'd like to see how, just keep watching. A list of supplies I used is in the description box below. To begin, I have 4 pieces of foam board cut to 7 inches by 7 inches to create a cube. I'm using painter's tape to help stabilize the pieces in order for me to glue them together. I used my Cool Shot glue gun to secure the pieces on the inside, stopping 1 inch from the top and the bottom. Here I'm showing you that the first piece is glued to the outer edge and the next piece will be glued to the inner edge. And the final piece is glued the same way, as you can see illustrated here. Next, to add some stability and weight, I add a tumbling tower block to the bottom 4 corners of the box. For the top of the box, I'm using a 7x7 piece of foam board. To make it fit inside the box, I trace the inside of the box onto it. I also make a tick mark inside to match it back up later on. Next, I trimmed down the sides with my box cutter and glued it into place. After removing the painter's tape, I went over the edges of the box with fine grit sandpaper to knock down any rough spots. Here I'm showing you the other 2 boxes for the set. One is 5 inches by 5 inches and the other is 9 inches by 9 inches. They're made the same way as the 7 by 7 inch box. And these will nest down nicely for storage. Throughout the remainder of this DIY, I'll only be showing the smallest box. Next, I'll be galvanizing the boxes. The first color I'll start with is Steel by Waverly Chalk Paint. Using a makeup sponge, I'll randomly pounce the paint all over the box. Full coverage is not necessary, but you want to make sure you are not keeping a constant pattern with the sponge. The next color I'll be using is Galvanized Tin by Anita's All-Purpose Metallic Acrylic Paint. Using a new sponge, I'll do the same steps as before. The last color I'm using is Silver by Craft Smart Paint. This technique is very forgiving. You can go back and forth between any of the colors until you are happy with the finish. You just want to be careful not to oversaturate the foam board, as it tends to separate when it gets too wet. Also, you don't have to use the same colors as I do. To achieve the same look with paints you own, all you need is a light, medium, and dark gray. Start with the medium, do the dark next, and then the light. Next, I'll be using Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel to create some rust like the inspiration piece. This time I pinched out little pieces of the makeup sponge to make it irregular. Then the same steps apply. Pounce the color on randomly with a non-consistent pattern. After doing all of the edges of the boxes, I set them aside to completely dry. Then I sealed them all with 2 light coats of this matte finish acrylic sealer. While waiting for them to dry, I cut out the word joy on my Cricut Joy using permanent smart vinyl in black and dark red. The smart vinyl is really awesome because you don't have to use a mat to cut out your designs. To apply the letters, I first found the center of the boxes and marked them 1/2 inch down on the painter's tape. Then I found the center of the letters and marked them on the transfer tape. Next, I peeled off the backing, lined up my marks, and applied each letter. And this is what we have so far. Next, I'll add a bow to the top using this 2-pack of bows from Dollar Tree. I'll begin by taking off the tails and removing the centers. I decided to keep the staples holding the pieces together. Next, I glued the 2 pieces together in the center. To cover the staples in the middle, I glued the center piece back on. Next, I glued the tails in an X, making sure it would fit nicely on top of the box. Then I glued the bow and the tails together. I really didn't like that hole in the middle, so I attached the last center piece to cover it. Then I glued the bow on top, and this project is complete. For this project, I'll begin by coloring these plastic DIY disc ornaments that I purchased at Michael's. I used water, a mixing container, school glue, paint colors to match the inspiration piece, and empty cups for draining. I'll begin with True Red by Anita's All-Purpose Acrylic Paint. I start with 1/2 teaspoon of water in my container and add glue and paint. I didn't use exact measurements, but you want the paint mixture to be thick enough to coat the inside of the ornament. Think warm honey. Also, bear in mind that the more paint you use, the more opaque the result once dry. Be sure to stir the mixture thoroughly. Next, I poured the mixture into the bulb. I slowly turn the bulb to completely coat the inside. I'm turning and draining as much paint back into the original mixing container, as I will end up doing 2 bulbs in this color. If you see any air bubbles, you want to get them out before it dries. Once the bulb is done draining, place it into the empty cup to drain further and dry overnight. Then I pour the next bulb and follow the same steps. If you're interested, all of the paint colors and supplies I used are in the description box below. For the sign portion, I have the Beware sign and a piece of foam board from Dollar Tree and wood grain poster board from Michael's. All have been cut to 22 inches long and whatever the width of the Beware sign is. I attached the foam board to the Beware sign using foam and poster board adhesive from Dollar Tree. Next, I cover the edges of the board using masking tape to give it the appearance that it is all one piece. Next, I used Truffle by Waverly Chalk Paint to paint around the edges of the sign. Once the paint was dry, I applied the poster board on top of the foam board. I placed heavy books on top of it and set it aside to dry. Next, I have a string of lights from Dollar Tree and the toppers for the ornaments. I make the hole slightly larger in the toppers by making little snips in the slit that is already there. I use my needle pliers to make the opening just big enough to slide the light through. Next, I cover 3 of the lights I won't need with black electrical tape. 2 nearest the battery pack and 1 on the opposite end. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is to make the lettering for the ornaments. After opening Cricut's Design Space, select New Project. Then select Text. Here you can see all of the different fonts Cricut has to offer. Next, I'm going to filter down my selection. I'm going to select Cricut Access under Ownership, Single Layer under Type, and go back. I'm going to select Elfie because it's fitting for this project. The text box pops up, and I want to use Believe on my ornaments. Next, I select Edit to adjust the height of the lettering to 2.5 inches. Next, I select Action, then Ungroup to make them individual letters. I do this to save on vinyl. Now I'm ready to select Make It. As I said before, with Smart Vinyl, you can cut without a mat, so that's what I'll select. On this screen, you can see the material size to cut. Once I have that ready, I hit Continue. Now I'll choose my accessory as the joy. Set my material to Smart Vinyl Permanent, then load my tools and materials. Once loaded properly, the joy checks the link to make sure the proper amount of material has been loaded. Once that is complete, I select Go and cut out my design. Next, I have 16 tumbling tower blocks glued in sets of 2 to use on the back of my sign to accommodate the battery pack from the lights. I'm painting them with Truffle by Waverly Chalk Paint to blend in with the sides of the sign. Once I get them all painted, I set them aside to dry. Here I have the ornaments lined up with their corresponding lights and letters. After I filmed the design space scene, I did go back and downsize the letters to 2 inches. Now, a disclaimer. This is my second time applying vinyl to a rounded surface. This does take some patience, so if you do this project, give yourself some grace and take your time. That being said, one tip that I know is to start in the middle of the letter and smooth outward. The letter B gave me the most fits to apply, but in the end, you barely noticed the bumps. If any of you are proficient in this arena, please feel free to leave your tips for all of us in the comments below. Alright, sweets. I'm going to get off the struggle bus now with this letter B, but I do have to say once again, the wrinkles aren't that noticeable. Now that all the letters are applied, it's time to assemble everything. I marked a center point on the board and will work my way from the center outward. I'll also be placing the ornaments on so they kind of look like they just landed, if that makes any sense. Next, I take the toppers that I modified and place them on the lights. Then I used my Cool Shot glue gun and secured the loose bulbs to make sure they don't fall off into the ornament. After that, I took the bulbs, put them down into the ornaments, and replaced the toppers. Then I secured each topper onto the ornament with hot glue. Next, I apply the tumbling tower blocks to the corners in L shapes on the back of the sign. Then I secured the battery pack, making sure to place it where I have access to change the battery and the on-off switch. I secured the excess wires to the back using the Cool Shot glue gun, and I ended up adding a twine hanger on the back off camera. I had several of these ornaments left over from the last DIY, so I decided to make little candy ornaments with them. The swirls and the spirals you see now are from a previous project that didn't work out, so I decided to use them here and not let them go to waste. But I'm going to show you how I achieved them in Cricut Design Space. From the New Project screen or a blank canvas, select Image. Next, search Candy. There you'll see all kinds of candies to choose from. I chose the 2 that I liked the most and then pressed Insert. I'm only interested in the spirals and the swirls, so I'm going to remove the parts I don't want. For the green and red candy, select Actions, then select Ungroup. Now I can separate the pieces by sliding one away from the other. Then hit the X on the one you don't want. And that one is done for now. For the next set, I'm still on the action screen, so I select Ungroup for this one. I separate the pieces and X out what I don't want. I re-click on the two pieces that are left and select Duplicate so I have two sets. Next, I select Hide Contour and click on the lollipop spiral twice to remove both pieces. I click the last set and select Hide Contour. This time I click the swirl to remove it, then click on the lollipop once to remove just the sucker part, leaving the swirl behind. Select the piece you want to resize, then click on Edit. I chose 2.62 for the width, and the height automatically adjusts to the proper ratio. The last step is to change the color of the top swirl so they all cut on the same sheet. After I click the top swirl, I select Cut. I choose the color that matches the other two pieces, and now I'm ready to make it. The pieces that I cut previously are iron-on vinyl. They have been cut from the fabric they were on, and I will be applying them with Mod Podge. I did end up cutting some swirls on permanent smart vinyl in white, and I'll be applying them to the ornaments just by peeling them up and putting them on like stickers. After applying the iron-on swirls with Mod Podge, I decided to sugar some of them with more Mod Podge and glitter. That step is totally optional, but I'm extra and it's for Christmas, so why not? Here's a look at the ornaments on my little tree, as well as another look at the projects from today's video. I can't wait to finish decorating. So tell me, which one was your favorite? Today I'll be showing you how to make these pretty little tulle trees that can be made with all Dollar Tree products and are really perfect for any season or holiday just by changing their color. If you'd like to learn how, just keep watching. A list of the supplies I used is in the description box below. I'll begin with the wood star shape that can be found at Dollar Tree. They also have a few other shapes if the star doesn't interest you. First, I fill the hole with spackle and set it aside to dry. Once dry, I sanded the spackle smooth and sanded any rough edges around the star. Next, I marked the center of the star to drill a hole. I'm using a 1/4 inch drill bit, and I place a piece of tape 1/2 inch from the end so I don't drill all the way through the star. Here you can see I stopped drilling just when the tape reached the star. Then I sanded any rough spots left behind from drilling. Next I have 3 12-inch craft dowels. I cut 1 to 6 inches, 1 to 9 inches, and left the last one at 12 inches. Next I used apple barrel paint in antique white to paint the stars and the dowels. As an alternative, you can stain them or leave them plain. Now that the paint is dry, I'll attach the dowels to the stars using wood glue. You can glue the dowels without drilling a hole, but the hole makes the overall project more sturdy. Next, I have white tulle that is sold year-round in the wedding section of Dollar Tree. I've cut several 8-inch pieces to tie around the dowel. One way to tie the tulle is by folding the tulle in half, place the tulle behind the dowel, and pulling the tails through the loop on the other end in front of the dowel and pull to tighten. The other way is to tie a knot with the tool around the dowel. I prefer this method and will use it throughout the rest of the tutorial. I'll also be only working with the 9-inch dowel for this video. Imagining the dowel as a square, I tie the tool on each side of the dowel going up, pressing them down tightly together and fluffing as I go. Here I'm showing a progression. I've gone about halfway up the dowel using about 36 8-inch pieces. Next I will cut 6-inch pieces and tie those until I reach the top. Before I reached the very top of this tree, I decided to use a finial from my stash. I painted it in antique white by Apple Barrel and glued it in place. Then I continued tying the tool. In all, I used 36 6-inch pieces. Here's a look at the tree with all of the tool tied on. Now is the time to trim and shape the tree. This can take a little time to get the tree looking just right. Here's a look at the white tree finished and 2 others I completed. The pink tree is using all Dollar Tree glitter tulle from around last Valentine's Day. I'm sure they'll be in stores soon. For the top, I just tied a couple of squares of tulle down. Then I doused the whole thing with hairspray to keep all of that glitter in check. This last tree is made with 2 colors of green tulle purchased at Walmart. For the top, I used a 14mm bead, a 10mm bead, and a Dollar Tree star bead, all painted antique white. These trees are such a fun and whimsical touch to my Christmas decor. And I already know the pink tree will make an appearance in my Valentine's decor. Which color is your favorite? Today I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful winter scene in lighted tree glass to match. If you'd like to learn how, just keep watching. A list of supplies I used is in the description box below. Before I begin, this project was inspired by Lacey over at Lacey Space. She made one last year that I thought was absolutely beautiful and decided to create one of my own. If you'd like to see how she created hers, I have her channel and video linked in the description box below. I started with this oval-shaped tray from Dollar Tree. I took an impression of the inside bottom of it to make a template for the next step. I cut the template out about 1/4 inch smaller than the actual inside of the tray. Next, I traced it onto a foam core and cut it out. Next, I'm going to build a foundation on the foam core using tumbling tower blocks. I start with 3 rows of 3 and glue them together. Then 2 single blocks in this position. 2 blocks glued end to end, then glued in this position. Then a single block glued in this position, and 1 more single block in this position. Now to build it out. I start with 1 row of 3 and glue in this position. I make another row of 3 and glue in this position. Now a single block in this position, 1 row of 3 glued into this position, and another row of 3 in this position. Now 2 blocks in this position, 2 blocks glued end to end, then glued in this position, then a single block glued in this position. A single block glued here, another single block glued here, and the final single block glued here. Then I decided to move the top left block into this position and the bottom block here. Then I set it aside to dry, and once dry, I give it a rough coat with white acrylic paint. If you're still here, thank you for bearing with those directions. I tried to make it as simple as possible, but I know the wording was repetitive. I applied the tumbling tower blocks to the foam quirt and trimmed down the excess. Next, I attached this towel from the automotive section in Dollar Tree to it. My intention is to glue it so that it looks like the side of a hill and not so much like cloth glued on blocks. Once it's completely attached, I trim off any excess and set it aside. Next, I use the template to draw a mountain range and then cut it out. Then I cut the larger portion on gray felt and the smaller part on white felt. You can always use the same cloth I used on the tower blocks. I chose to use the felt to break up the texture and the color. The gray is a little dark, but I'll address that momentarily. So I forgot to press record.
Duh.
Before I got this far, I lightly spray painted the felt and let it dry. Now I'm using white acrylic paint to add some snow on top of the mountains. I'm using a small chip-like brush and dabbing the paint into the fabric. I also did some dry brushing across the entire mountain. I'll add snow on the white piece of the mountain as well. Now to make those mountain tops glisten, I'm using glossy Mod Podge and white fine glitter. For the hillside, I used glossy Mod Podge and faux snow on the high points to give it some dimension and shine. I used this Bear spray paint purchased at Home Depot to cover the tray, and this is what I also used on the felt. Next, I used matte Mod Podge and white glitter to add some shine to the top portion of the scene. Once the first layer was dry, I sealed the glitter in with another layer of matte Mod Podge. The second layer of Mod Podge isn't quite dry, but I'm going to put a twine hanger on the back. I used 8 to 9 inches of twine and unraveled the ends a little bit. I glued them on the back of the tray and covered the ends of the twine with small pieces of felt for more stability. Here I have tree ornaments that come in a 2-pack from Dollar Tree. The deer also come in a 2-pack. I sprayed them all down, including the mountain, with Aquanet hairspray to minimize the glitter fallout. Off camera, I added glitter to the hillside with spray adhesive and then sealed it as well. Now it's time to assemble. First, I glued the hillside in place. Next, the mountains. I originally cut them longer than I knew I needed, so now I'm trimming it down to the height that I am happy with, and then I glue them into place. Next, I place the trees. I trimmed the trunk on the second tree, then glued it in place. But it was leaning back, so I had to find a solution. For the solution, I used a piece of skewer, painted white and glittered to camouflage it, and used it to prop up the tree. Next, I added the deer. I positioned and glued them so it looked like they were looking at each other. The last step for me is to add a bow and some of these glitter branches I had left over from last year. After going over a couple of placements, I decided to put it all at the top. I glued the branches in place, added tails to the bow, and glued it in place as well. In the end, I glued another branch on each side of the bow, and I really love how this project came out. To begin this project, I have a drinking glass from Dollar Tree, a small mixing bowl, glossy Mod Podge, white food coloring, or you can use white paint, and water. To frost the glass, I make a mixture of water and food coloring and mix well. The amount of food coloring or paint you use will depend on the opacity you are looking for. Then I add glossy Mod Podge and mix well. You want the consistency to be like warm honey. I test a small area on my glass to make sure it's the level of frost I want by putting some of the mixture on the glass and drying it with my heat tool. To the left, I have a cookie sheet with parchment paper on it and a wire shelf riser to place my glass to dry. Next, I pour my frost mixture into the glass and turn it slowly to completely cover the inside. Then I turn it over on the wire shelf and leave it to dry overnight. The glass has had time to fully dry. The top of it is a little rough, and I'll address that later, but overall I'm pleased with the outcome. Next, I use Waverly chalk paint in white to paint around the bottom of the glass. I did 2 coats, completely drying in between. I'll be using one of these tree ornaments you can get from Dollar Tree. The next step I did is completely optional. I wanted the tree to curve more to the glass, so I taped it as tightly as I could to the glass, then heated it with my heat tool, then let it cool. Again, this is optional. Next, I cut off 1/2 inch of the tree trunk and painted it with 2 coats of Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel. While the paint was drying, I sealed the ornament hole with spackle. Next, I glittered the ornament with silver using glossy Mod Podge. Once dry, I sealed it with another coat of glossy Mod Podge. Then I glittered the bottom of the glass with Mod Podge and white, fine, and super fine glitter. I also sealed that with more Mod Podge once it was dry. Next, I used the larger of these 2 mini trees to wrap with lights. I was going to use these Dollar Tree lights, but the battery pack is too large to fit down in the glass. But you can glue it to the outside of the glass if this is your only option. I'll be using a string of lights that I purchased on Amazon. I doubled over the strand and wrapped it around the tree, making sure the battery pack was near the bottom of the tree. Here I'm showing you I applied some super fine glitter around the rim of the glass to cover its imperfections. And now it's time to assemble. First, I chose the part of the glass I liked the most, then hot glued the tree in place. Next, I placed the lighted tree into the glass. And that's all there is to it. The only change I would make is to make 2 of them, because I absolutely love this piece. And that wraps up my Christmas DIY compilation. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to get your craft on this holiday season. I'd love for you to share some of your holiday ideas in the comments. Don't forget to check the description box for the timestamps and links to the full tutorials of each project. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss all the new projects I've got coming your way. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting, and I hope your upcoming holiday season is magical.